Hey everybody, I'm Shane.
And I'm Jeremy.
We got Mr. Moskowitz in the house. GP Answers, PolicyPak, Microsoft MVP, right?
This is great. I love being here. This is like my favorite day of the year. One of my favorite days of the year.
We love having you here. Thank you. This is not the first time, but you know, now you have Jeremy's ear. You've probably asked questions on GP Answers, but hey, you've got him here for the AMA. And then after we're done, you're going to be refreshing the video library for your product.
For both of us. I mean, that's the great part. Is that what I love about being here? Not only are they super fun and heavy drinkers, is that we have a great Better Together story. So I hope people will ask about holistic. Like that's one of the reasons I'm here. I'm hoping people will ask us holistically about like their Windows 10 deployments and their rollout and their where they're tripping and trapping, so we can maybe come up with some creative solutions, product based or not product based, whatever it is. I just want the best way for you to be satisfied. Like that's all I care about. So
Better Together. All right, let's go ahead and throw down some. I'm going to pour a whiskey.
All right, I'm going to pour myself an oolong tea.
All right, let's go ahead and throw down some questions.
Dear Shane and Jeremy, how can I find duplicate or conflicting settings in GPOs applied to the same OU? Sincerely, William Z.
Let me read that out loud again. How can I find duplicate or conflicting settings in GPOs applied to the same OU? Okay, so let me retranslate what I think you're probably asking just as a clarification point. I think the question could also be just generally rephrased like, hey man, I've got too many freaking GPOs. How do I figure out across all the group policy objects if there are conflicting settings? And then at the end of the day, on the endpoint, toward the users or computers. Today, there's not a lot of choice. There may be some choices coming soon to a theater near you, if you're catching my drift.
That's fantastic.
Yep, but right now, there's not so... the state of the art could be a little bit better. Now, if you want to try to roll this yourself, here's some ideas, and it's not... one of the tools is, and I think I can drive on this, right?
Yeah, you can drive.
I'm not going to probably demo the tool, but I will get you the experience for you to try it out yourself. Here we go. So Microsoft has this thing called the Microsoft Security Compliance Toolkit. Okay. And in the Security Compliance tool, is it weird to be using Google for a Microsoft thing?
No,
am I going to catch on fire?
Google is known.
No, it's only in the studio. Or
don't use Bing.
Yeah, well, you
won't find
what they say at Microsoft, right? You Google with Bing. Yeah. No, just kidding. I'm just kidding. I made that up. That's not a thing. Okay. All right. So one of the tools that's in here is this thing called Policy Analyzer by one of my friends, Aaron Margosis. So if you know who Aaron is, Aaron's the rock star looking guy at Microsoft who he's also in charge of this idea called the security baselines. We could talk about that too. But the tool you specifically asked about, William, I think it was, is an option, again, is this thing called Policy Analyzer. And what it will do is if you point it toward a particular GPO or GPOs, it will tell you some conflicting things. It's a little bit manual, it's a little bit crunchy, it's a work in progress, and I'm not saying anything that Aaron, the guy who wrote the tool, doesn't already know. It's a free tool, and it's on his own time kind of thing. But at PolicyPak Land, our plan is to make something that will make this job a lot easier, probably in the 2018 timeframe.
Oh, fantastic.
Yep.
That's exciting, man. Right now, how important is sequence in the applying of policies? So basically, if he's saying you've got conflicting policies, maybe you've got a GPO that turns something on, and then it turns the same thing off.
It's everything.
So sequence...
Yeah.
And do you find that people misread the sequence? They think that this is first and this is second?
And in fact, I think it kind of goes even... that's a great question. I think it actually goes beyond just a sequence. I think people are often misunderstanding the full chain of events of things that happen, right? I heard you guys talking about the inner group policy engine before and how that's can kind of be the most confusing part. And when I teach my GP Answers training classes, one of the things I like to teach is that there's 5 levels to group policy. Most people, 5 levels? I never heard of 5 levels. Nowhere is it written that it's 5 levels.
There's computer and user.
That's it, right? No, but the way that I like to think about it is there's the operating system has a default built in, right? So somebody at Microsoft thinks it's a good idea that regular users can get into control panel. That's the default behavior. And then beyond that, there's the local group policy. You can walk right up to a machine and you just type gpedit.msc and then it'll affect all the users on the machine. And then there's sites, then domains, then OUs. So knowing that as you go down the line, the thing that's closest to the user or computer wins in a conflict, that's a huge game changer. Like when you know that, you're not like, oh, that's why I created it here and I have it here. And then going back to William's question, where he talked about multiple GPOs at an OU. Okay, so this policy analyzer will help you across all sorts of things.
Okay.
And getting your question, which is what about in a single OU? Well, in a single OU, there's a batting order there too, and it's reverse. Just to make things nice and complicated, it's reverse. So I might as well
show it.
Yeah, I might as well. So by way of example, let's go ahead. I'm going to create a brand new. I'll use these web engineers because we're not going to be doing anything particular with them for now. So if you were to create a GPO here and call it GPO with stuff.
With SUTIF.
With SUTIF. Okay, here's a GPO with stuff. Oh, add a
Lex,
page.
he's already left your typing in the dust with 2 misspellings.
That's not even
You are hereby replaced.
Yes.
GPO with stuff.
no.
1. You know, it's not my keyboard and all that.
Right.
And I'm also on
We
an
have special
angle
keyboards.
GPO with stuff too. Let's pretend there's stuff in here. Okay, it doesn't really matter. But I'm naming them 1, 2, 3, and so on. And GPO with stuff 3. Now here's where it gets weird, right? So you think, okay, here I am at Web Engineers, and I can see there's GPO with stuff 1, 2, and 3. Let's pretend in number 1 you've turned the control panel off. Number 2 you've turned it on, and number 3 you've turned it off again. You with me so far?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, this isn't the order. Nope, this is the order you see here is alphabetic. This is the order here.
With that little link order?
Yes, this little link order. So you click on the level in group policy land, so my web engineers, and then you count backward. So it's 4 gets written first, 3 gets written second, 2, then finally 1. So if there's a conflict between 4 and 3, what wins?
3.
Between 3 and 2, what wins?
1.
Wait.
I'm just going to jump right to the end.
But we don't have 1 here. It's between 3 and 2 wins. So
I'm just trying to piss you off.
Get over here. So that's the general gist, right? So the point of the story is that it counts down. I like to think of it like launching the space shuttle. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Right. So if there's a conflict between any of those items,
1 wins.
1 wins in the SmackDown. Okay. So that's how I like to think about it. So I think that's sufficient.
Yeah, I think so. I know a lot of people that think that 4 has the higher priority.
Because you would be a logical person, and as we all know, logic does not dictate the way the world works. People work on emotion. So
let's throw another question out there.
Yeah.
Dear Shane and Jeremy, can you customize the Start menu in Windows 10 Education in the same way you can for Windows 7 Enterprise using GPO?
Great question. Let me repeat it back, make sure I got it straight. So the question is about the Start menu and Start menu customization, and then the second part of the question is about, so Windows 10 Education the same way you can for Windows 7 Enterprise using GPO. Let me repeat the question back. So his question is, can you manage the heck out of the Windows 7 Start menu in the same style as the Windows 10 Start menu and vice versa? Is that how you're interpreting the question as well? No, capital N, no. It's just they're not related, not in the slightest. So the way the Windows 7 Start menu works is super easy. You just take a bunch of shortcuts and you put them in order and you go get a beer and you're ready to go. Man, if only that were that easy in Windows 10. It doesn't work that way. In Windows 10, there's a way to do it what I call in the box, and then there's a way to do it with, say, our stuff using PolicyPak. The way to do it in the box is, and take a big deep breath with me because this is complicated. You have to have a big...
When he says take a deep breath, I'm just going to
take a big breath.
shot.
I'll be with you right here.
Same thing.
It's the GPO drinking game.
Yes, okay, take a big deep breath. All right, so in order to manage the Windows 10 Start screen, you have to configure a machine with every freaking application on it. Then you have to configure the Start menu in just the right exact way, the right icon size, the right colors, and the right order. You with me so far?
I am.
So far you've taken up a metric ton of your life.
Yes.
Okay. And then you have to export it using a command called DISM. DISM is this in-the-box tool to help you manage some of the configuration aspects. You export an XML. And you're off to the races because then you point to that XML using group policy and all your machines will respond. And this works awesome when you have every machine who needs exactly the same settings under the same circumstances. But what's that I hear you cry? You have different machines that have different requirements or different people that have different requirements? Gosh, you must be crazy because there's no way to do that in the box.
That's never ever happened.
That's never happened where people have exceptions and so on. So should we risk a real live demo here?
Go for it.
Give it a shot. Let's see how we do.
We break stuff all the time.
Yeah, let's break stuff all the time. All right, so let's see what we have. This is our Win 10 computer 3 machine.
No, this to your question. This is not Windows 10 Education, but
it should work for enterprise or this should work. Pro. Right, you beat me to the punch. Wait, hold on. Older versions of Pro wouldn't honor this. Okay, so if you're trying to do what I'm about to show you on an older version of Professional, it wouldn't work. It started working in 1703 and then continued on to 1709. I forgot my story straight. Maybe it's 1607. Anyway, they got a lot of pushback. Professional wouldn't do it.
Oh, yeah.
And then they finally said, fine, you can do it. So I'm about to show you will work on Pro, Enterprise, and Education. I described how you could do the way in the box, which is to create a machine with every freaking application on it, export it, and then you have to manipulate it and have different GPOs for different circumstances.
Let's show.
What we're going to do is do a little bit different. So why don't I create a new group here called like My Apps, and maybe My Apps will be VLC Media Player and Acrobat Reader, just to get started. Now, to make things a little bit easier, I think my management station also already has the same applications, which makes things a little bit faster. But if you don't have that circumstance, that's okay too. There's a quick way around that. So, so we'll do this for okay, GPO is stuff 3. That's going to be the guy. We'll rename it so we know what we're doing later. We'll call this
VLC and Acrobat or something.
Yeah, we'll call it
or Engineer Apps or whatever.
Exactly. So yeah, right. Exactly. Web Engineers Start Menu or something like that. All right. All right. Click Edit here. And like I said, my own machine here has those same applications just to accelerate this a demo that would be like this. So we'll go to User Side, PolicyPak, and we'll go to Start Screen Manager for Windows 10. Okay, and that's the whole point. You've already deployed your apps using PDQ or part of your image, which I'm not a fan of by any stretch of the imagination. And once they're on the machine, however you get it there, we're going to have you create a new collection. Now, a collection is sort of the definition of how this thing's going to work, and I'll explain the 2 modes. So I'll call a collection one's fine. Okay. Partial preserve says leave all the crap that Microsoft has on the desktop already for the user. Leave all this junk here, and then add more stuff.
Sure.
Or if the user's already gone through and made those changes, maintain those changes. Okay. That's option 1. Option 2 is full replace. Full replace says nuke what the user has, rip it away, put my stuff on, and then users can't work around my stuff.
It's like the robocopy / MIR, the mirror.
Yeah, right. Do what I say and nothing else. Exactly right. So we'll just leave it as partial preserve. Okay. And then for inside the collection here, why don't we go ahead, right-click, add. Whoops. Right-click, add a new group. This is the actual name of a group. Okay. So that's going to land on the Windows 10 start screen. So maybe we'll call this Killer Apps. Okay. These other settings aren't that important for the purposes of this quick demo. So go to Killer Apps here, and this is where you now get to add a new type of app. Well, what kind of apps are we talking about? So let's do a desktop application tile. And because this machine also has the same applications, I can just pick from this machine, which should be easy enough. So I'll go ahead and pick, let's see what we have here. Okay, got a lot of applications here. We'll pick Acrobat. That's always a good one to start off with. And we'll pick medium tile. You can't pick these big ass tiles unless it's a one of those big ass apps like Calc or whatever. All right, and we'll talk about column and row in a second. So we'll call this Acro Reader, and this is just the name of the policy, not what the user's going to see. Then we'll add another. Why don't we go ahead and add a big ass app? Call it a Windows Universal app, and I'll pick Calc as maybe my second guy here. I think I click next. Here we go. Here's Calculator. Click next, and now we'll pick Large Calc. All right, pick Large Calc, and then we'll just call this Large Calc. And then we'll go ahead and add another.
Desktop.
Yeah.
Did you want to add? You want to add a VLC?
Yeah, let's add VLC or Firefox or whatever. So we'll go ahead and add that guy. Registered app. Figure out what's on the box. And because you have a lot of applications, I can just filter by name real fast. VLC. That was easy.
There we go.
Boom, boom. I'll pick medium, and we'll come back to this row and column thing in a second just for fun. So we'll go to VLC app. All right, there we go. And wait a minute. What did I hear you say? Different people have different needs? You mean not every engineer needs VLC? Oh, no problem. If you want to specify different people get different circumstances, you can do what's called edit item level targeting, which is a concept from group policy preferences. You can say only do this tile when the dude is in this security group, or when he's on a laptop.
Whenever he matches whatever criteria.
Whatever the criteria is. So don't put a tile if he's not that guy who needs that application.
Don't give this man the calculator.
Please do not give an engineer a calculator.
All right, so that's it. We're locked and loaded and ready to go. So we'll go ahead and run GP update here. And if all goes well, we should be able to see it in real time. Boom.
There they are.
Just like that.
Calculator.
So now this would have taken you your entire natural life to do if this were the Microsoft way.
Out of the box.
Right? Because you didn't have to generate a machine with every freaking application on it. Every individual user or OU can have the applications carved in the correct fashion, and thing just works the way you would expect.
I like it.
Yeah.
Let's do another question.
Yeah.
Dear Shane and Jeremy, what would be the best way to audit GPOs to identify ones that are no longer needed or are deprecated? Also, do you find it easier to manage several GPOs, such as one per application you are trying to control, or have a couple large GPOs that set everything?
I get that question like 40 times a year. Let me go with the first one first. Can you leave that on the screen for a minute so I can...
Sure thing.
Okay. The best way to audit GPOs and identify ones that are no longer needed or are deprecated. So I think the question, if I'm interpreting the question, and I want your opinion, is he saying, when was the last time a GPO was touched by a human and edited? Do you think that's what he's driving at?
No, actually, but we'll go with that, because I mean, the no longer needed and or deprecated, two completely separate.
See, you're thinking policy setting, and I'm thinking GPO. Is that what you're...
Well, maybe he's got a policy that no longer requires this, but he's got a setting in a GPO or an individual GPO that no one's.
Maybe he's saying like, hey, I've got a GPO that has a setting called remove runoff start menu.
Okay.
That's not a thing you can do anymore in Windows 10. Maybe that's what he's driving at. Okay, let's go with that. How would you figure out if something is no longer needed or is deprecated? Well, the good news is that if something is no longer needed or is deprecated, it's not costing you anything to leave it there, right? So even if you're delivering the setting called remove runoff start menu, it isn't not a big deal. But how do you go about finding those? I would say that's pretty challenging. The quickest way that I would probably think about doing that is going to there's this thing called the group policy settings spreadsheet. Let me go ahead and see if I can show you where that would live. So that would be, again, I'm going to Google with Bing, group policy settings spreadsheet. Okay, and in the group policy settings spreadsheet, I don't think I've got an Excel reader on this thing, but if I did, what it will do is it will tell you, no Excel reader. But the point is that one of the columns will tell you, works with. Okay. So works with Windows 7 and later, or only works with Windows 7. Okay. So that setting, you got an uphill climb, because you're going to have to go through every GPO and every setting and figure out, is this thing still valid?
But this goes back to the next part of this question. Go ahead and pop that up there, Kelford.
Yep.
Where he was saying, do you recommend doing one GPO per application, or just throwing, obviously if you name them properly, then at a glance you should be able to say, oh, I don't use that anymore.
Yeah.
Or instead of cluttering it up with so many individual GPOs, with a setting per, just throwing them all in there.
So I have a philosophy about that. So the general philosophy is that most people, you get more immediate bang for the buck if you create a new GPO for a succinct idea. So a succinct idea might be like, remove these items from control panel. That might be 4 policy settings, but it's one succinct idea. But I also see value in having one particular GPO have one setting if it's a succinct idea. The downside of this is that you're going to have what I call the too many freaking GPOs problem. Gosh, if only there was a third-party tool you could use to help get you out of this problem. So let's talk about that. So the way you would do this is I like to say this, this is a GPO with brains. What the hell is a GPO with brains, I hear you cry? Well, again, you might have all these different GPOs, some for Windows 7, some for Windows 10, some for other circumstances, and so on. But that's why you have so many GPOs. So what you can do with PolicyPak is you can go to PolicyPak, Admin Template Manager, and you can create these little folders that give you brains. So if you add a new collection, check this out. When I'm on the sales team, that's one thing that we might want to do. Okay. Another collection might be when I'm on Windows 7, and I'll do one more, when I'm on Windows 10. Okay. It's a new collection, when I'm on Windows 10. Well, gosh, how do you teach these folders to have the brains? Well, go back to item level targeting.
Absolutely.
And so we're going to use new item when the operating system is Windows 10, and done. And now, here's the best part. It turns orange. Orange means it's enlightened with item level targeting.
The brains.
The brains. And now, instead of having a new freaking GPO for every directive, you just have these little folders inside a GPO, and you can add a new policy here, and compress and reduce the raw amount of GPOs. So if you wanted to, I'm going to make this up, kill the control panel for when it's Windows 10. So there's a control panel and prohibit access to the control panel, something like that. I want to do just this one setting, enable that guy, and click OK, and then click Close on the second window. This policy setting is only going to fire off when it's in Windows 10. So in this way, you get the best of both worlds.
Gotcha.
You don't have too many freaking GPOs. You can have a folder that has just the things you want in it, and it actually can reduce your logon times and increase your speed because you're downloading less GPOs. Okay. So the longer story is, again, for organization, I love having more GPOs, but then you have the too many freaking GPOs problem. But with this, you actually get the best of all worlds, having less GPOs and being able to scrunch.
Another thing I would just recommend is, and this doesn't help as much if you're inheriting a system, which I think a lot of you have, but when you are planning out your GPOs, have a separate area for documentation so that you can, at a glance, know that if you're going to do it function-based, or maybe I have a base level GPO that applies to all computers, and then I'm going to break down the organizations or the functions. Keep that stuff
ready to hand.
Use a Dewey Decimal System if you have to.
And in the GPO itself, if you go to Properties, most people don't know this, there's a little comment field, and you can say, for ticket ID, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this information is actually stored in the GPO itself. Where did I put that thing? There we go. And then if I look here, inside the Details tab, wrong GPO. Haha. It was the GPO Brains. That's the guy. So if I look at the Details tab, there it is. And this actually lives in the GPO in just clear text.
That's great.
Which is great, because that means you could PowerShell your way to glory and put your own comments in there, and you can suck them out with a tool and have people search for it.
You can store your passwords in there?
No, don't do that.
Just seeing if Lex is awake.
Great.
Yeah.
Lex is, by the way, Lex is our phone a friend over there.
Here, buddy.
I think we answered that question.
All right, let's throw another question up there before JJ gets too sauced to be able to push a button right.
What? Dear Shane and Jeremy, what is the best resource in your opinion on GPO changes moving from Windows 7 to Windows 10 for education?
Well, the good news is that there's not a lot of difference between education and enterprise. In fact, I think there's 0 differences. They just have a little label that's different. But education and enterprise are ostensibly the same. So anytime you see the word enterprise, think education. That's the first thing that's important. And then I would once again go back to that idea of the group policy setting spreadsheet reference, because you're going to be able to see all the stuff you're already doing and see if it translates to Windows 10 land. And again, what I like to say is that something that used to work yesterday will generally work again tomorrow. Not everything, but almost everything. So you should be pretty good. But those things like remove runoff start menu, that's just not a thing anymore.
When you had such a major change between Windows 7 and Windows 10. And by the way, that was asked by Jason, who was here last week from Arkansas.
Yeah, I had a great time hanging out with Jason.
Yeah, he was a good guy.
Thanks for the liquor you brought, buddy.
Yeah, thank you, as always. Come bearing gifts, or don't come.
Dear
All right.
Shane and Jeremy, when should I be using create, update, and replace in a group policy preference?
Good question. I don't get this one that often. That's a great one. All right. So these are, inside of group policy preferences documentation, this is called the CRUD modes.
Oh, really?
Yeah, create, replace, update, and delete.
I didn't know that.
CRUD, right? Create, replace, update, delete. So the idea is that you're going to, okay, so the way I like to think about it is if they vary a little bit between each different group policy preference, but the easy one to hang our hat on is like a drive map. So you can think of like create says, deliver X only if Sally ain't got no X drive. Okay? Replace says, only do it if Sally does have an X drive. Nuke her X drive and put my X drive on. Update says, I don't care. I don't care if she got an X drive or ain't got no X drive. Put on my X drive. And then delete says, nuke her X drive. Okay. That's create, replace, update, and delete. Now that being said, it's going to vary from group policy preference to group policy preference. Some of them may not quite honor that exact methodology, but that's a good starting place. So I generally use update, because update generally means do that thing and I don't care what Sally's got. Just do the thing and I don't care. So generally you use update. Every once in a while you want to use replace, but almost always you want to use update.
And I've got to throw this out there, especially for out of the box. Check out GP Answers. I mean that really is the form. That's the form I use. It's the form that almost everybody uses.
Well, we shut the forums part down, and now we've forwarded on to somebody else.
It's still a great reference. It's amazing.
Thank you very much.
I use it all the time.
Yeah, the forums we're getting. I got too many spammers from Albonia or whatever.
Yeah, Albonia.
You're doing their thing in there.
Reference. I love
Yes,
that.
thank you. I appreciate you saying that. And you came to my group policy training class.
I did.
And by the time it was over, how'd you feel?
Oh, I hated you more than I loved it. It was amazing. In fact, Brig also went. He went a year later to one of your classes in Chicago.
That's right.
It was amazing. And I mean, not only. And if you're thinking, oh, is this just all PolicyPak? And no, you throw PolicyPak at the end of the class.
Day. Each day gets a little bit.
But it's such an amazing resource. And once again, there were so many things that I had gone in there thinking I knew about group policy, and you're like, okay, let me disabuse you of that notion right now.
Yeah, we get a lot of that. I had a guy in my class this year that had been doing it 15 years, and he was a little skeptical. I was like, look, I'll tell you what, and this is the deal. If you come to the class and you feel like it wasn't worth the value, we refund your money. That's how confident we are, that you're going to gain an incredible amount. Even if you think you're a black belt ninja, this guy was a little on the fence. He was like, I'm super glad I came. I've been doing it for over 15 years, and I picked up a whole bunch of stuff, and I'm ready to implement.
So Jeremy,
but I will say, if you go for the whole 5 days, and then you say...
No more 5, only 3.
Then
only 3. Yeah, they're longer days, more badass.
I'd still say, if you do the whole thing, and then go, nah, you're a tool. you're a tool. You need to be taken out. Some street justice needs to be put on you.
So Jeremy, you shut your forums down. Is there another place people can go to ask questions?
Yeah, there's a couple places. I mean, it's weird. I actually think of myself as an IT professional. Right? As an IT professional, professionals go to LinkedIn. Right? That's where what's good about LinkedIn is that you are who you say you are. You can't really hide behind who you are, which I think is an important thing. So that LinkedIn has a forum called GPO Stuff, and it is a perfectly reasonable
GPO Stuff.
GPO Stuff in LinkedIn is a perfectly reasonable place to I think it's an invite-only forum, so it's for the people who are doing GPO stuff, right? So for the person that's what you do at your company, you're happily...
Also, you could read that answer as LinkedIn. We're not just for spam.
Yeah, right.
All right.
There's some other places too, but that's where I like to hang out.
Let's throw another question down.
Our next question is from the lovely and talented Mary M. We capture images using Sysprep, but are there some basic settings that we could determine through group policy that normally we set through Sysprep? I don't have a lot of experience with group policy yet, but I want to learn.
We got a theme. So the theme here again is if there's a setting and you want to learn about it, like if you're already doing it manually, the group policy settings spreadsheet reference is fantastic because, by way of example, let's say you were embedding the prevent access to the control panel flag inside your Sysprep. Well, great. Well, now you don't have to do that and bake it in there anymore. You might change your mind for a group of users later. I like to have your image go as naked as possible, okay? And then you're going to lay down the applications and then the policies second, okay? So naked, then applications, then policies. Once you have that layer, you're ready to go. So I humbly suggest that the settings spreadsheet reference gives you what you need in order to find and translate between one to the other.
And Mary, definitely, if I can through group policy, because it is so versatile and you can make changes instead of having it committed in Sysprep or any images that you've got, just use group policy where you can, because you can make the changes. It's much more versatile, and it will ultimately save you a lot of time. You might have some upfront costs in converting over.
And manpower to do it.
But it's in the long run, Mary, I think it's going to be a big win for you.
I agree.
Want to throw another question down?
Michael K. would like to know, can GPOs be used to get rid of all the Windows 10 junk things like Xbox and other junk that business users do not need?
Well, yes, it can, but not without a little help. And it's so funny. We're shooting a video on this real soon. But let me give you the quick layup on this. There are some scripts you could do for this, but the problem is that in group policy land, scripts run all the time. Okay, so here's the general lash up of how you would do this. Sorry, with PolicyPak. So here we go, PolicyPak scripts demo, and I'm gonna have a full-fledged video on this at some point coming soon. I don't obviously have the script in front of me, but we're gonna have it generally available and ready to rock. I get this question so often, I love it. So here's the general gist. Okay. So under user side, PolicyPak, we have a new component that's called PolicyPak Scripts Manager. So PolicyPak Scripts Manager lets you right-click, create a new policy, add a new policy, and it can be wrapped around item level targeting again. So when I see this stuff, then do this thing, by way of example. So, and here's a script. So here's PowerShell as a script type, or VB or whatever. I don't have the script. We're going to play pretend. Remove the crap that I don't want on my machine, and we're going to provide a script for you.
Right now, Chris and Colby are absolutely
I've got one.
dying over this.
I've got a script. They're running up here.
Okay, so the script can be run as user or as system, which is really important. And then you can also do what's called an off script. So this is good for scenarios where, like, I'm in sales and I want to do this thing, like remove a bunch of crap, but then I go to marketing and I want to reinstall some stuff, right? There are some scenarios there. So when I'm back in marketing, I want to reinstall whatever that is. Then I click next. And when do you want this thing to run? Here's the magic. Always, not that exciting. Once, very exciting. Or once when forced. So you can have it run once and then, oh wait, I see that weird thing on your desktop. You run GPM/force, and we re-execute the script for you to then clean it back off. So we'll do a once script, click next, and then you could wrap it around item level targeting and say, do this thing when you've got a laptop, when you've got this scenario, VDI, whatever your thing is, and you're ready to go.
I see always. You said not exciting. I see always as a fantastic way of messing with your end users.
In fact, it's exciting, but not for this script. So if there's something that a user keeps doing over and over and over again, and you want to make sure it happens at logon and in the background, then always is fantastic. But for the purposes of what this person was asking, I think once is the right choice.
You're too nice.
Dear Jeremy and Shane, one of our biggest headaches with GP is documentation. Do you have any tools or tricks to help make GP management easier?
So there's a two-part question, one about management and one about documentation. I think, is that how you're reading it too?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me hit the management part first. So the raw management of GPOs is not something that we do. We're in the business of getting settings deployed and being more badass around settings. But the idea of, like, hey, you've got 4 people at your company and you're both stepping on each other's group policy toes, that is a challenge that has been very well solved. So there are at least 3 tools that will help with group policy overall management. The GPO check-in, check-out, workflow management. The one that Microsoft has, if you're an enterprise or education customer, it's completely free. It used to be part of MDOT that you'd pay for. It's called AGPM, or Advanced Group Policy Management. The idea is sort of like a GitHub or SourceSafe. You're kind of checking out a chunk of code in those circumstances. Here, you're checking out a GPO. It's now locked. You're the only guy that can edit it. You make your changes, and you check it back in, and then you deploy. So the idea is that nobody else can be working on it while you're working on it. So that's the management part. So
AGMP.
AGPM.
AGPM?
Advanced Group Policy Management.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the other tools, Dell Quest has one, or I guess it's just Quest now. So Quest has 2, and there's another one by NetIQ called GPO Admin. They're all similar in their idea. If you understand one, you know how to drive one car, you can drive the other cars more.
I haven't looked at NetIQ in years.
Yeah, they still make that product, and they keep it up to date, which is nice.
That's fantastic.
The other part of the question was about documentation. So the way to document group policy objects, there's a couple different ways. If you know where you're going, right, you just click on, say, the settings report here, and here's our GPO with brains, and just to prove a point here, we'll see that there's going to be a bunch of settings in the settings report. Here we go, a bunch of settings in the settings report here, which is great. Now, these settings that are in the settings report, like prohibit access to the control panel, you might want to right-click and simply save this report as HTML. But gosh, you've got 236 GPOs. What are you going to do? PowerShell, my friend. So you can get all GPOs and pipe it to the commandlet of, it's something like, get GP report or whatever, and then export as HTML or export as XML. And now you've got something to know what you had at least today. It doesn't help you track changes over time, and there's no kind of way to watch it evolve over time. But the point is like, hey, at least you know what you had. But don't forget the most important thing, I tell every administrator, for the love of God, back your stuff up. Right-click, back up all. Make sure you at least have good backups, because if your backups are, if you screw up the GPO and you have no backups, there's really not a good way. Even if you think, oh, no, I've got Veeam backup, and I've got all these backup. No, I'm sure they're great, but I couldn't guarantee a win that way. Okay. The only way I could guarantee a win is right-clicking backup all or using the PowerShell equivalent, which is...
I remember you covering that.
Yeah, I mean, because you never know. I mean, look, when the fire hits, you want the chemical to put out that fire, right? A grease fire, not a regular garden variety fire. And that's the point.
JJ, you were saying something. I wasn't sure if you're talking to them back there or to us. Okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Is there, you guys have more questions back there?
Oh, yeah. Dear Shane,
a lot of Jeremys today. What's going on?
What is the best suggestion in Windows Enterprise to disable Edge in a GPO? I am forcing all my users to use Google Chrome because I use GoGuardian to monitor my users.
Hold on, there was a cracked article when Edge was getting when Windows 10 was just coming out, and kept talking about Edge, and somebody from Cracked had the new a new Microsoft line, Edge, so fast you can download Chrome like 76% faster than before. You know, that was Edge, just a machine to download Chrome. So, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Not at all. So, okay, all right. So the question on the table is, how do you block a particular application if it's Edge or anything else using group policy? And then the second part is, how do you force all users to use Chrome? In fact, I'm going to show you both. The first way, the way to block things, basically, if you're going to use this stuff in the box, that would be AppLocker. I actually don't know off the top of my head if AppLocker will honor Edge being blocked or not. If you're going to use something like PolicyPak, we can actually do it together. We could go to our web engineers, and then we'll create a specific rule. The thing about AppLocker is that it's saying block everything and then open up the doggy doors to let things through. Mm-hmm. And the problem with that is that it takes your whole natural life to get all the rules correctly.
Gotcha.
So what we're going to do in one fell swoop, just pop Edge. Okay, so we're going to like prevent Edge from running. And actually, just to prove a point, let's go over to our endpoint and make sure that Edge, in fact, is running, that I'm not pulling a fast one on you here. So here's Edge down here. Okay, there's Edge. So far, so good, right? He wants to prevent Edge from running. And by the way, you're on the right track that you don't want to use your system to remove Edge. That's a bad idea. There's a lot of evidence over time that if you were to use the commands in the box while you're doing Sysprep and so on to remove Edge, that Windows will not upgrade properly. So that's a helpful hint from Heloise. Don't try to nuke Edge, just try to block it. So we'll go ahead and prevent Edge from running here. And what we'll do is we're going to use what we call PolicyPak Least Privilege Manager.
Okay.
So we'll go over to user side PolicyPak, and then we'll go to Least Privilege Manager. And we'll right click, add a new executable policy rule. Sure I can find where Edge is. So simple rule by path or name, so that's fine. So we'll go ahead and click there, and the path we want to add, we've got to find it exactly. This is the trick. I got to make sure I can do it. So if you don't know where it is,
I don't know where Edge is.
There's Edge Manager. That's not the guy. So I think it's in Windows. Maybe it's let's figure out. Let's do something like Edge. Okay, it's just so we don't have to like spend our whole time looking for it.
Or something?
Yeah, what I'm going to do is actually just to block something. I'll go ahead and block, say, VLC Media Player because I know where that is. Okay, just to use this as an example. Okay, so and this is the exact same thing. So I'll go ahead and browse for C program files x86 VLC. I said I know where it was, but now maybe I don't. Program files.
It's probably the 64-bit, so go down to VideoLAN.
Oh, VideoLAN, thank you, very good. VideoLAN, VLC. So here's how you're going to pop one thing and make it just stop. Okay, so program file, blah, blah, blah. Same idea, same exact thing for Edge. I just don't know where the heck Edge is. And I have a video on it on PolicyPak website. So you're going to go ahead and click Next. We're going to just deny execution.
Okay.
Just pop it right there. So we'll go ahead and say, no this app for you. All right, boom.
No this app for you. Conjugated perfectly.
Yes. Oops, I lost my window here. Put that puppy back here. There we go. All right. So just to prove a point, here's VLC Media Player working this very millisecond. Now, if I were to go over here, back here, do CMD, GPOs.
Let me guess what you're going to run.
Exactly. Gosh, if only there's a way to do that with group policy. That's what you should be asking yourself. Gosh, if only there's a way to do that with group policy. And there is. A lot of things you can do in the box. But this one would take a long time with AppLocker because you'd have to craft the rules to say like, well, program files is okay, but then this thing is not okay, and then with a twist alignment, it just becomes a lot harder. So now that we've got that all set and ready to go, boom, just popped it right there. And you can do the exact same thing with Edge. And there's a part 2 to this story. You said you wanted everything to always go to Chrome, okay? So just to prove a point, you're not going to get rid of Internet Explorer. That's a little crazy too. You're not going to want to stop Internet Explorer from running. But if you had a scenario, and I think this is what you said, let's pretend every time you go to google.com.
This is one feature I love. That you can, when somebody goes to a particular, like a URL or something like that, you can say, using PolicyPak, you know what? you may be doing this in Firefox, but you're going to open this in Chrome, or vice versa.
That's exactly what I'm going to show you. So your thing was, when I go to this particular website, man, I always wanted to open up in freaking Chrome. That's what he basically said, right? And I'm going to use Google as the example here. So you can see Internet Explorer. Here I am. When I opened it up, nothing particular happened. Now I've got a GPO already ready to rock here for this particular idea, which is Browser Router. So Browser Router is another PolicyPak feature that, exactly right, we're trapping the URLs that you want and then routing you to the right browser at the right time. So if we were to go to user side, again, PolicyPak, and you can do this on computers too, I just happen to be doing it on user side. Browser Router, okay, and I've already got a rule set up just to, I wasn't sure how we were going to do this, so I set it to PolicyPak to Internet Explorer, but I'm going to do the opposite for you. I'm going to make a new policy here that says,
anytime you go to Google,
all googly things to Chrome, all right? So I'll go wildcard star Google star, and I'm going to just say pop it over to Chrome. So I'm in the wrong browser. I'm going to route you over to the right browser, and this works from any to any browser. You could be in Firefox, Edge, Internet Explorer, or Chrome, and get you to the right place at the right time. Oh, what's that? Different people have different needs, right? Mr. IT department.
The targeting.
Right. Mere mortals get this, IT department gets that, developers get this, right? Different people, different needs, different criteria. But I'm just setting it all up in one shot here.
You're breaking Lex's rule of just saying, I don't care, I'm going to destroy the end users.
UFC those end users, Jeremy. You can do it.
Knee them in the groin.
That's right, my
Because
friend.
I'm a sad alcoholic who hates my life.
That hurts because it's true.
So in fact, why don't I used Internet Explorer 10 seconds ago, but why don't I go ahead and open up Firefox, which I also happen to have on this machine. Firefox here. And let's say you're happily doing your thing in Firefox. Firefox is having a good day for a change. Everything's going great.
Right now, Mozilla.org is going, what the hell?
Yeah, you know, because they always listen to the update, like when I'm in the middle of demos. So you're doing fine. Let's say you're over here in this tab. You're on Facebook. Should we block Facebook next? Should we do that next? So here's Facebook. And then you decide you want to go to, whoops, it already did it because I clicked on a Facebook ad. So I'm in google.com, watch the birdie, we close the wrong tab, open up the right browser, and now you're in the right browser for the right time. So we can do this for any browser to any other browser. Come on, man, right? Is that amazing?
That is badass by any metric.
And then you're in this browser, and you want something about it. You need to go to PolicyPak.com, and that only works great in, say, Internet Explorer. Watch this. PolicyPak.com. Watch the birdie. Watch the tab. We close the tab. Boom. Route you over to Internet Explorer. Any to any browser routing. Just like
I mean, Java is getting removed from so many browsers, but maybe if there's an application you use that still uses Java.
Yeah.
And someone's in Chrome and it's going to fail, it can just redirect to Firefox or something like that.
That's exactly
You guys are
right.
thinking all the good ways to do it. I just had like 1,000 evil things just pop into my head, ways I can just mess with the end user.
Not surprising.
I know that is, in fact, your MO.
Yes.
Do we have? Are we about wrapped up, or do we have any more questions? All right.
Dear Shane and Jeremy, I'm trying to build a cloud-centric infrastructure with 0 on-premise servers while maintaining the kind of control over workstations that LAN managers typically have. PolicyPak Cloud is a good step in that direction, but it only does settings, not application installation or configuration. Can PDQ provide the missing link?
I guess I'll probably take this one.
Yep.
So you're talking about, if I understand it correctly, you're talking about machines that are not on premises. So at this point, the deployment, unless they're coming in through a VPN or something, deploy will not be able to hit those remote over the cloud machines. We are introducing an agent in inventory. Another one for deploy is forthcoming in the next version, but we're doing this piecemeal. We're doing it slowly with deploy. When the agent is introduced in deploy in the next version, you will see the ability to only use packages from the package library initially to be deployed to those remote systems, and that's packages as they stand right now in the package library, not with any pre or post steps. But forthcoming, our goal is to be able to, if you use this optional agent, the agent will be optional, that you'll be able to hit those remote machines. And that's if I'm understanding your question on the you're not going to have anything on premises. You mentioned servers. Now, if you're talking about machines that are on premises, then yes, absolutely deploy. Go for it.
Yeah, I think what he's driving at is I've got some home user that never comes to the office, never has a VPN, not domain joined. How can I deploy stuff over to them?
Forthcoming on deploy. Not the next version. The next version, once again, is the agent that will utilize the inventory agent, but it will only be able to do library packages as they stand right now. But forthcoming, we're figuring out ways of doing that. But I do love the fact that you did mention the PolicyPak Cloud, because that's, at least for those settings, yeah, getting the applications deployed, that's one thing, but at least those settings, you have solved the problem that Microsoft has been facing for years.
It's a bedeviling problem, right? So that's the thing. You've got on-prem, you've got not domain joined machines, and then you've got this kind of intermediary thing, which is MDM, right? So MDM is typically for larger organizations, not 50 seats or whatever, 500 seats, that kind of thing. And it's a way for you to enroll your machines into something that will also do settings management, comparative but not really to group policy. So people are calling us all the time. They're like, well, how do we take our on-prem group policy stuff and get it through the cloud? Well, you can use PolicyPak Cloud, or you can use PolicyPak MDM, and that will deliver your real on-prem group policy settings to those machines, even if they're not domain joined.
Awesome.
Yep.
Another question?
Dear Shane and Jeremy, any options on a version of PolicyPak for Windows 7?
Yeah, it works. So, which is to say,
easiest answer today.
It ships. So yes, same client-side extension that works in Windows 7 will work in Windows 8.1 and Windows 10. When Windows 7 falls out of what's it called, the support for Microsoft, we're going to fall out of support too. But as it sits right now, it's fully supported, and we just follow Microsoft's path.
If there's a reason you're asking that, like I've got Windows 7 and I can't get PolicyPak to work, then I would.
That's the support channel.
Yeah, I would open up the support request with PolicyPak.
But it works fine. We're just happy to be demoing Windows 10 because it's kind of hot.
Rock on.
Dear Shane and Jeremy, how do I know if a group policy is going to tattoo the client's registry?
Usually I've heard tattooing the registry when you make registry modifications outside of group policy, because group policy, by removing that policy or modifying it, you can just change all of the machines that had that registry setting. It was using regedit, or even making a registry change in like PDQ deploy. You set it once and you don't really have a reference of which machines have that unless you're using an inventory scanner or a registry scanner in inventory. That's my idea of registry tattooing. So if you're talking about group policy tattooing, that's kind of tied into the question of how do I know which group policies have settings or policies that I don't want set anymore. That was an earlier question, either deprecated or I just don't use those settings. That's going to come down to how you manage group policy. Do you have something you want to add?
Yeah, sure. So the way I like to think about tattooing versus non-tattooing is that everything that Microsoft ships under admin templates, all this stuff is non-tattooing, and you can see this in these little scroll dealy icons, right? So if you take a look at all these icons, little scroll guys, those are all non-tattooing. So I like to say you get something because you are something, and then you lose that something because you aren't that something anymore. So you're in the sales team and you get these 9 things. Move from sales to marketing, you ain't got those 9 things anymore. Okay, so that's the first thing. However, there are going to be a bunch of categories that will tattoo.
Oh, okay.
And the categories that will tattoo are going to be most of the security settings. For instance, if you were to drive down a bunch of security options here, there is no way for it to revert back. Like it doesn't have an idea of what revert means. You're driving these settings in, and that's show business. Like there's not a way around that. The other ones that are kind of tattooing by default are going to be the group policy preferences items. So let's take a shortcut, which is not registry tattooing, but it gives us a good example to hang our hat on. So if you were to create a new shortcut item here and call it, I'll make a URL on the desktop, and I'll call this www.abc.com, and put it on the desktop as target URL. Okay, and give it some icon here. Now, when you deliver this, the default behavior is when you go from sales to marketing, it doesn't do anything, right? It will tattoo. Not registry tattooing, but a form of tattooing.
Sure.
However,
in the shortcut case,
yeah. And the idea, however, is that you could do this thing called remove this item when it's no longer applied, and that will then peel it off when the item is no longer applied. And this works great in some circumstances and not in other circumstances, and I go into that in the training class in excruciating detail. But for this, the shortcuts, this one works great for shortcuts, so that's why I like to bring it up here.
Yeah, I guess I've always looked at tattooing because you're making a change that's not
working
it's
around
not central.
Yeah,
it's not, because you could still go and remove the setting or say I don't want to do this and set it back to something. Yeah, there's not a revert necessarily, but at least it's still central.
Yeah, right. At least
change it once and it hits 1,000 computers.
And you can see the report. At least you know you did the thing, as opposed to what you're. I completely agree. If you have a not group policy based script, or you're just launching Scud missiles from outer space, you have no idea that the thing actually happened. Right. Which is why I'm not a huge fan of like firing up the PowerShell and shooting the machine gun to 1,000 machines, because then like the guy that came in next to you, he doesn't know what you did. And it's the same idea for what I think was Mary's question about like, well, should I embed stuff into my image or should I use a group policy? Group policy. Yeah, because if you embed it into your image, how do you know what you embedded into your image?
I will say this, for those, if you do have, especially if you're inheriting a system, utilize the registry scanner and PDQ inventory so that you can say, hey, I want to know which machines have this registry setting or don't have this one, and you'll be able to pull up you have to kind of know what you're looking for, but that will help to alleviate some of the pain of registry tattooing.
That's great.
What do you got?
2 more questions. Dear Jeremy and Shane, what are your recommendations for literature or resources for learning more about GPO management?
Well, I think Deirdre gets a free book out of the question, to be perfectly honest. So, well, let's take a look.
It's not going to be a group policy book. It's probably going to be like A Tale of Two Cities or something, but you'll get a book.
Yeah, right. If I could type GPANSW, I can't even type my own website. I'm losing my mind. GPANSWERS.com.
Once again, you just left Lex in the dust.
I don't know what's going on. So GPAnswers.com, I would, is it okay to humble brag? Is that a thing you could do here?
Of course. we never get to do it because we have nothing to brag about.
So if you really want to get bootstrapped as fast as humanly possible, I highly recommend my live group policy training class. It's not cheap, but it's definitely worth the price of admission. And if you need me or one of my teammates to come there to teach your team, if you got a full team, we're happy to do that. We also do, so you can come to a public class as a one-seat, one-man, two-man shop, and when we set up shop at a hotel, that's great. Or you could take the online training rather. The online training is a set of recorded videos that's similar to the live training. They're that close to each other. So if you need it right now, the online training is great. If you're ready to come to the live experience, you have to wait to go on gpanswers.com on the newsletter list to get signed up, and you'll find out when that is. There's also, of course, the book. If you want to get signed copies of the GP Answers book, look at me holding the book. Yeah, you think I look like
that? That's a hell of a pose.
Yeah, exactly. So there you go. You can order your signed hard copy book today.
The picture he had before, he was topless.
Not true. Not true. So
that's my copy.
So long story short, you can order a signed hard copy today. Of course, you can buy it on Amazon, or you can get it a Kindle edition. I swear on a stack of Bibles, some guy in my training class, he came up there with his Kindle and he said, "Would you sign the back of my Kindle with a Sharpie?"
Wow.
I was like, okay.
Oh yeah,
which I did.
No, when it comes to Kindle, I will only sign the screen.
Yes, I did sign the back.
Oh, we have one more question. Is that right?
And our final question comes from the fabulous Kate L. Once we went to 1709, the GPMC crashes when trying to browse for a packaged app in AppLocker. Any ideas as to when that lovely little bug is going to be fixed, or if there's a workaround?
So, I'm an MVP, but I don't work for Microsoft, right? So I don't have any inside baseball to what their roadmap looks like. If you file it as a bug, the chances of you calling Microsoft PSS, having a reproduction of the thing, if you can guarantee that this happens 100% of the time on very clean machines, then it's an accelerant to getting things fixed. So I do not know, but you are in the driver's seat. And it's weird, you have to put down your credit card, but then because it's a real bug, they refund your money back. And then that encourages fixes like that to occur.
Yeah. All right, we good? You guys, everybody, thank you very, very much. Thank you.
Super great to be here again.
It's always good to see you. This is, once again, Microsoft MVP. He has the answers. I guess are you really gonna get a book out to Dietrich?
Yeah.
All right.
He's gonna do me a favor, Dietrich. Email me, just jeremym@policypak.com, jeremym@policypak.com. And if anybody wants to get a trial of PolicyPak, you want to try it out for size, you can email me too. I'll get you to the right place. Just jeremym, JEREMYM @policypak.com. You can try it out yourself and see if it's the right thing for you.
Rock on, everybody. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you later.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for joining our webcast today. Congratulations, William Z. and Craig S., winners of PDQ swag. Send us your info at webcast@pdq.com. Thanks again for joining us, and we will see you back here next week.